it was likely that there would not be a return to large-scale military attacks. And Brent, we see nonetheless on course for a monthly gain of nearly 6%. This afternoon, we see a further drop from what we had in the morning, $93.44. WTI is also up 0.39% at $86.47. Gas is on the flip side, 1.83% gained in the last 24 hours, $2.78 for a barrel. And talking about the Strait of Hormuz and the cost of all of this, we decided to do a bit of track of what that looks like. And this, we're supposed to have that visuals. We're supposed to have a visual tracking what happened, what the Strait of Hormuz looked like in about an hour. This is not it. I need to tell my producers that that's not it. Moving away from that, Dangote Group has offered East Africa countries a 30% equity stake in the giant refinery plan for the region, according to Kenyan President William Ruto's top economic advisor. And the report release says that the shift is aligned with the country's second national strategy for transformation. And they, of course, are excited about this Capital Markets Forum in Nairobi. They are adding that Ethiopia and Rwanda have also shown interest in this. And the report released says that the shift is aligned with the country's second economic plan. And then Angola is set to load 30 crude oil cargoes in October. That's down from 34 cargoes scheduled for September. The October program translates to 932,000 barrels per day, pointing to a decline in the country's crude export volumes from the previous month. The reduction comes as Angola continues to face challenges from declining output at some mature oil fields, although new offshore projects are expected to help support production. Oil remains central to Angola's economy and export earnings. Making changes in crude shipments are important for the country's fiscal and external position. The lower October loading program could also affect crude supply in the Atlantic market, particularly for Asian refiners that rely heavily on West African barrels. Let's go and see what's happening with metals now. Gold has hit a near 3-month high today and is set to rise for a third consecutive week and breach its 200-day moving average, driven by a weaker dollar and the United States Treasury surprise mid-week liquidity support announcement. And so we see that spot gold has gone up 1.55%, $4,642.30 per ounce. Spot silver is also up more than 2%. Platinum is up more than 3%. Palladium, 2.5% in the green, $1,358.50. And copper, 1.68% up at $6.57 per pound. So other stories now coming from Africa. The African Development Bank said that it plans to invest more than $400 million in Rwanda's agriculture sector over the next 3 years. This is according to the Bank Rwanda's 2025 Country Portfolio Performance Review report. The planned investment is part of the bank's effort to shift more financing towards agriculture and reduce its heavy concentration in infrastructure. Ethiopia's central bank has allocated $500 million in a special foreign exchange auction as it moves to increase dollar liquidity and support stability in the country's currency market. The National Bank of Ethiopia said the auction held on Thursday was conducted for monetary policy purposes, with commercial banks submitting bids through the central bank's FX auction system. The latest intervention comes shortly after Ethiopia began a new program of regular foreign exchange auctions, with the central bank seeking to improve market liquidity and provide a more predictable supply of hard currency. The $500 million allocation also comes amid continued pressure on the birr and strong demand for foreign currency from banks and businesses. And still in Ethiopia, the country and the United States have agreed to establish a comprehensive strategic cooperation in defense and security. A high-level delegation led by Major General Teshome Gemunchu, the Director General of Foreign Relations and Military Cooperation at the Ministry of Defense, visited the United States from August 19 to 20 and held bilateral consultations at the Pentagon with their counterparts and other senior leaders of the U.S. Department of War. According to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the consultation was co-led with the Deputy Assistant Secretary of War for African Affairs at the Pentagon, that's Bryce Ellis, and an agreement was reached to elevate the military and diplomatic cooperation between the two countries to a new and advanced chapter. In East Africa, more than 1,000 Kenyan chief executive officers have presented 8 specific demands to the President William Ruto's administration, urging sweeping reforms to the business environment ahead of the 2027 general election. The recommendations were captured in the Central Bank of Kenya's CEO survey for July 2026, in which respondents outlined the interventions they believe are necessary to stimulate economic activity across the country. Topping the list is a call to reduce the overall cost of doing business. The executives want the government to lower levies, licensing fees, and compliance costs, as well as bring down fuel, energy, and key input prices. The second demand centers on tax and regulatory predictability. The CEOs want the cost of credit reduced and greater financing support made available for business expansion and job creation. The fourth demand calls for the government to ease compliance by cutting bureaucratic processes that drive up operational costs and limit productivity. The fifth is about fiscal management, specifically timely settlement of pending government bills and the release of funds owed to the private sector. And then in the north of Africa, Egypt has completed Africa's first trial of mobile telecommunication services using the 6 GHz frequency band, marking a significant step in the country's efforts to prepare its networks for higher capacity and next-generation connectivity. The National Telecommunications Regulatory Authority conducted the trial in partnership with Telecom Egypt and Huawei. The successful test makes Egypt the first country in Africa to trial that band, also known as U6GHz for mobile communications. The demonstration included the operation of what NTRA described as Africa's first mobile-based station using the band, followed by the completion of the first data call over the spectrum. During the trial, data transfer speeds reached approximately 1.7 per user, highlighting the band's potential to deliver higher speeds, increase network capacity, and improve service quality, particularly in areas experiencing high levels of network traffic. And in West Africa, Ghana's Mine Workers Union is demanding the release of more than 380 million Ghanaian cedis, equivalent to about $34.5 million in workers' savings that have remained frozen since the country's financial sector cleanup. The union submitted a petition to the Bank of Ghana saying the funds belong to more than 19,000 workers, including retirees, redundant employees, widows, and dependents. The trapped funds comprise provident savings, welfare contributions, and severance pay packages that became inaccessible after the financial sector reforms that was launched in 2017, during which the central bank revoked the licenses of more than 400 financial institutions. In Zimbabwe, the Ministry of Mines and Mining Development is owed approximately $31 million in outstanding mining title fees, with title holders being given until August 31 to settle their arrears or formally approach the ministry with payment plans. Permanent Secretary Dr. Thomas Utete announced the deadline, saying during a visit to the ministry's provincial mining office in Mushuwaland Central, is asking officials to intensify engagement with mining title holders and ensure outstanding fees are recovered. It says that they're giving miners up to 31 August to pay their outstanding fees. And the arrears relate to fees payable by holders of mining titles and accumulated approximately $31 million. Dr. Wisheshe says that mining title holders face genuine financial difficulties would be allowed to engage the ministry and propose arrangements for clearing their debts. Still in Zimbabwe, the RBZ, that's the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, has rejected calls for exporters to reduce the contentious 30% export surrender requirement, insisting that the policy remains critical to maintaining price and exchange rate stability. In its midterm monetary policy statement, the central bank said that stakeholders had called for an urgent review of the current 70 to 30 export retention framework, arguing that exporters needed to retain more of their foreign currency earnings. And still in Zimbabwe, the government is losing millions of dollars through the theft of medication and hospital supplies by employees at public health institutions. Health and Child Care Deputy Minister Suleiman Kwidini revealed this. Responding to questions in the National Assembly, he said that some health workers were stealing drugs meant for patients and reselling them to private pharmacies. The issue was raised by Guto South MP and ZANU PF Chief Whip. In a follow-up question, they alleged that the pilferage of medicines by hospital staff was worsening the shortages at public health institutions. I said the leakages were costing the government heavily. And here in Nigeria, the Information System Audit and Control Association is pushing for conversations that would advance digital trust, governance, cybersecurity, and professional excellence amid accelerated adoption of artificial intelligence. The body says it celebrates 3 decades of existence, and it is highlighting the need for stakeholders to interact with global leadership on the future of technology, digital trust, cybersecurity, governance, and the evolving role of technology professionals. At a meeting between its executive and journalists in Lagos on preparation for its anniversary, discussions focused on the need for professionals to continuously develop their skills and competencies. Particularly, attention should be given to the growing importance of professional certifications.
AI is accelerating. There is no doubt about it. It's accelerating digital transformation. It's accelerating the need for digital trust. And AI today is also one of the challenges for us to make certain that that growth is controlled. And that growth can not only help countries develop new avenues for GDP growth, new avenues for enterprises to expand, but also in a controllable way that makes certain that we don't create greater risk for the populations that we serve. So as ISACA, we believe that we've got to get ahead of it. We are doing that currently, and we are working with a lot of different jurisdictions around the world, namely in Europe, North America, a little bit less in Australia, but in parts of Asia as well. And what we're trying to do is bring together a body of understanding and a body of knowledge that we can then take into the enterprises and make certain that the growth is harnessed, but also propelling forward.
For me, I think the problem with Nigeria is not about whether the policy exists or not, it's implementation. We also have, we have a directorate now for artificial intelligence in Nigeria. We have several of those. There are policies everywhere in Nigeria. The challenge is implementation, not the, so we have enough policies, but what the challenge we're having is implementation. And I think with more advocacy through bodies like this, then we'll get more of the achievement of the implementation.
And my producer is able to give me that picture from the Strait of Hormuz about an hour ago. And remember earlier this week, about 2 days ago, we did look at this, and we saw just about 300 vessels in the waiting. However, that has increased to 449. Today alone, 5 vessels were added. They are all bulk carriers of commodities. They are stocked there waiting for perhaps a passage to be able to go through there. And then ships transiting now in the last 24 hours, just one ship. So that's why in Europe and everywhere, the risk of supply of gas and petroleum products is really going up. And then tanker spot rate, we see that has gone up almost 600% compared to before the crisis started in February 28. Daily throughputs now is about 154. And war risk, remember 2 days ago when we looked at this, it was at 8%. It's increasing now, it's gone up to 10%. Our normal rate is 0.15, increase of more than 66%, 6.7 times the normal. That's what the war risk is. So insurance, of course, premium has increased about 66.7%. No talks since 3 days ago. U.S.-Iran talks effectively collapsed. Qatar mediating short-term arrangement talks with Trump and threatens Oman. Remember, because Iran and Oman are talking about ways that perhaps they will go around all of this, and President Trump has threatened Oman for that. And any other country, in fact, that has connections and transactions with Iran, they have the threats hanging over their head. President Trump claimed new talks with Iran, but Tehran, of course, has rejected this. Qatar Foreign Ministry reports mediation seeking short-term arrangement. That's Qatar and Iran to negotiate that, and President Trump obviously has threatened Oman on that. Now let's go to the markets now and see what's happening at intraday. We have a red color again from Nigeria at 0.03%, and we have lost the 240,000 already, which we opened with. So we opened this week with 241,000, and now we are 239,000. Profit taking is the name of the game in Nigeria. In Johannesburg, it's positive 2.20%. In the green at intraday. Egypt is closed on Fridays. And Nairobi, we would have yesterday's close, both of them in the green at this time. Let's go to the Middle East, where only two of the markets are open on Fridays, and that's Dubai and Abu Dhabi. So these are intraday numbers. Dubai is green, while Qatar is in the red. And of course, the other markets are closed on Fridays, and they're both mixed. We move to the United States and see a red, it's changed from when I saw that. So Dow is in the green, as well as the S&P and NASDAQ looking green right there. In Asia, the markets there are closed with mixed sentiments from investors. Nikkei in the red, while Kospi and Hang Seng are in the green. Let's see the other markets there, and they're both in the green, or they're both closed in the green. That's Shanghai and Nifty 50. So let's find out what's happening from Chip. What's the market color, Chip, at this time?
Well, the color is green today. European shares have been climbing. The Pan-European Stock 600 is up 0.3%, and the DAX is up around the same level. So investors here are assessing the lingering stress in global bond markets. And of course, the deadlock between the United States and Iran is still pushing oil prices higher and stoking concerns about inflation here in Europe. But despite trading in the green today, European markets are still on track for a weekly decline. But they have still proved relatively resilient in recent weeks because, of course, the latest economic data here does show that European countries may be weathering the effects of the Iran war better than was anticipated. The latest Purchasing Managers Index, which tracks business activity in manufacturing and the service sector, shows that the Eurozone economy grew more strongly in August than any other month this year. And of course, limited exposure to AI stock volatility has been helping European markets. And so has, of course, the clearer monetary policy outlook here in the Eurozone.
Yeah, but I mean, we still have the extreme weather and the impacts on the river. Now we're looking at it affecting goods, transportation of goods.
Yeah, that extreme weather and the drought is obviously casting a shadow on the outlook. The Bundesbank says that low water levels are having a noticeable effect on economic activity in the ongoing third quarter. And that does mean that Germany's GDP will grow only slightly, and that is if it can manage to grow at all. And while there are some trends that are providing some momentum for the economy, such as robust industrial orders and higher government orders in defense and construction, the river transportation restrictions that we have will potentially drive up costs, and they won't just delay the delivery of goods, they will also worsen material shortages and hold up production, and that will put a noticeable strain on industry here. Now, Germany's labor market has, of course, also continued to deteriorate, and that's despite the slight growth of the economy that we saw during the second quarter. So private consumption is also likely to face pressure because of the high energy prices. And of course, the weak labor market will do little to help there. And so the Bundesbank overall also expects inflation to rise.
And it's also affecting agriculture production too. So I guess food inflation should also be on the rise.
Yes, of course, that is also on the radar, because on Tuesday, the Agriculture Minister, Alois Rainer, did say that the government isn't expecting a sudden or sharp increase in food prices immediately. But of course, that is something that could happen because, of course, this week, Germany's biggest farmers association did warn of a below average harvest, and the large falls in rapeseed and sugar beet production could reduce, for instance, domestic supply of oil and sugar. And in the areas hardest hit by the drought, which are southern Germany and parts of western Germany, potatoes and other vegetables could become more expensive as supply tightens. Now, of course, agriculture has been facing repeated pressures since the COVID-19 pandemic. And we have seen here in Germany food prices rise by over 36% since 2020, according to government data. So that does mean that Germans are already spending way more on food than they were before the COVID-19 pandemic. And those price hikes have been especially strong for poultry, dairy products, eggs, oil, and sugar. And so the coming months could be very challenging for people's purse strings, especially if the geopolitical strife and the effects of the El Nino continue to drive inflation higher.
Yeah, not looking so good there. Well, I hope we'll get out of this alive, all of us, Chip. And do take care and have a great weekend.
You too, Ini.
Let's go to the crypto space. Pleasant news coming from that corner. We saw a boost to the price of Bitcoin from in about 24 hours. It hit $75 and seems to still be going up. So at this time, we see it's gained 7.73%, and the price is at $77,349. 77,349 there. And Ethereum, one of my favorites, has been able to hit past the 1,800. It's at 2,390. It's gained almost 5% in 24 hours. It's a good Friday this time. But let's see what else is happening in the crypto space. The crypto market has witnessed one of the most brutal liquidation events in history, and that happened yesterday. $3.5 billion in leverage position liquidated in 24 hours. At the height of the move, more than $1 billion in short positions were liquidated in just 60 minutes, with the number eventually reaching $3 billion for comparison. And so we have it. That's a very brutal liquidation took place yesterday in the crypto space. XRP derivatives on Binance hit highest funding rate since 2005. And this signals strong bullish momentum. The funding rate surged today, reflecting increased demand for long positions over short one. That's XRP. And a leading Ethereum trader known for 23-win streak lost 49 million after Ethereum's sudden price surge triggered massive liquidation. And then Binance is embracing AI. Binance is letting AI agents trade on its platform, launching a developer system that connects tools like ChatGPT and Claude directly to exchange markets. And guess who's giving voice to that? Ripple CEO is backing that, the AI. And he says that revenue is set to double in 2026 with the adoption of AI. So we close on an AI note, and of course, we'll continue to live with AI every day of our lives in this world at this time. And that's it from the crypto space and for Business Incorporated at this time. Thank you so much for being there for us all through the days of this week, but we still have next week, so please just stay with us. But remember, even over the weekend, you can go to our YouTube channel and then you can watch our programs over and over again. I guess we should still be expecting a red market. That's for the stock market later. I'm Mini John McQuarrie.